What is going on, gunfighters? Welcome to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about guns and gunfighting the right way, with God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. I am blessed to be your host. I'm blessed to be able to serve you today. First and foremost, I'm a servant of God and a follower of Jesus Christ. I've been a professional gunfighter most of my adult life. I've done lengthier bios in other episodes, but military, Marine Corps combat veteran, law enforcement, private contractor, competition shooter, professional big game hunter and guide, some 3-letter government agency certifications. Enough about that. Let's get into today's topic. What are we going to talk about today? Today, next level handguns. Next level handguns. When you want to get the cream of the crop of the handguns. A Glock 19 is probably the most, or one of the most common handguns for concealed carry. At least it was. Maybe now it's the 320 or the Hellcat or a Taurus G2, 3, 4, whatever they're on. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're not talking about a Glock 17 or a 320 or an M17, which are all good handguns, but they're not what I would consider next level handguns. That next level handgun, again, that cream of the crop. And what I'm not talking about is, and I like Kimber as a company, okay? I run their rifles. Kind of my go-to recommendation for a really good hunting rifle is a Kimber. However, I'm not talking about like the Kimber 1911s or their little small pocket guns. I'm not talking about a gun that just looks fancy, right? They put a rainbow finish on it or they put fancy grips on it, right? That's not what I'm talking about. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to spend your money on that and you want a fancy, what is colloquially called a barbecue gun, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not a next level gun to me. I'm talking about next level in performance. Like the difference between a regular run-of-the-mill sedan and a hot rod, a sports car. That's what I'm thinking about, performance-wise. I'm likewise not talking about like a Springfield 1911 where they stamp operator or black special ops MAGA edition on the slide and that somehow is going to make it a better gun. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an actual step up in performance, in elegance, in fit and finish, in sights, trigger, things like that. That's what we're talking about on next level handguns. The first one I'm going to talk about is one that I recently sold. And not because I really wanted to sell it, because I'm trying to do the podcast thing full time. And I'm very blessed to be able to do that, and I'm thankful to you guys who listen, and very thankful to the patrons who support. But the money has not exactly been flowing in like the salmon of Capistrano around here. But if you're talking about a performance step up, there are many in the 1911 world. Colt is kind of known for the 1911, right? The Colt M45A1. I had one for years. I carried it on duty. I recently sold it. It's a good gun. Again, I didn't sell it because I wanted to or because I didn't like the gun. That Colt M45A1, a fantastic gun. Talk about performance. Not just the looks, but it looked great. They have a great finish that's more than just looks. It's very impervious to the elements. That M45A1 came in both Cerakote at one point, and then I forget the name of the finish. It eludes me right now. It's not ion bond, but it's some kind of bonding. A really, really good finish. Really, really good looking. Blends in with lots of environments. Kind of that burnt bronze color. It had really good grips that looked good. It was kind of a staggered desert warfare kind of grip. But not only did it look good, it was really functional. It was really good, really aggressive texturing. It also had a different recoil system. It had a dual recoil spring, which greatly aids in the longevity and I think the performance of the handgun. Instead of just the one main recoil spring, it had two. And if you know about 1911s, if you run 1911s a lot, hot and heavy, you'll know that you're supposed to, in general, just a regular spring, replace those main springs, I believe, every 1,000 rounds. A lot of people don't shoot that much, but if you shoot a lot, that you could go through a couple of those in a week if you're going through a 2,000 round training class in a week. The dual recoil spring lasts longer, and I think it is an upgrade in performance, an upgrade in recoil impulse, a really, really good improvement. Also came with really good night sights. That Colt M45 A1, you talk about the epitome of a really good step up from an already good gun, a 1911. And there are entire industries on making really good 1911s. And for a good reason, right? The 1911 kinds of lends itself to just, it wants to be made well and improved. It's such a good gun to work on, that metal on metal, the ability to put different grips on it, just the finest triggers on the planet. They lend themselves really well to that. They are just they're so good at that. There's entire industries and entire companies that lend themselves to doing that. Wilson Combat is kind of preeminent. They're not the only one, but Wilson Combat. If you get a Wilson Combat 1911, that's what I'm talking about. Next level. Yeah, they look great. They do, but that's not what makes them awesome. They have a great fit and finish. They use really good quality parts. In fact, when I'm working on my 1911s and stuff and I'm looking for a part, a good place to look is Wilson Combat, right? If I need a recoil spring, or if I need whatever the small part might be, if I get it from Wilson Combat, I assume it's good quality stuff. If you get a complete Wilson Combat 1911, yeah. Now, this is probably a good place to take a side detour. If you're just getting into guns and you want to get proficient, my recommendation is get a standard gun. Get a standard good 1911. Like just a standard Colt 1911. Or a Ruger SR 1911. Really good 1911. Get it and run it. Run it hard. And spend that money you would spend on a Gucci really nice gun, and spend it on ammo and training. And once you get really good, once you've gone to a couple competitions or gone to a couple of training classes, once you've put a couple of cases of ammo downrange with a handgun, and you're getting to where you want that next level thing, and you can actually take advantage of it. Because the ROI, unless you just have a blue sky budget in the beginning, is not there. You're going to get more bang for your buck buying cases of ammo and running it. It's going to be better with that Ruger SR 1911 that you've put 2,000 rounds through and you're really familiar with, and you can run well, than you are with the Wilson Combat. Even though the Wilson Combat, I'm going to say it is a better gun, that you've only shot 2 boxes of ammo through because that's all you can afford because you spent all your money on the Wilson Combat. But if you get to that point and you've got that Ruger that you've beat up and is still working fine, and you decide you want to go to that next level on the 1911, maybe that's when you look at a Wilson Combat. They make many good models. I'm not going to go down the catalog and list every model that Wilson Combat makes, but if Wilson Combat makes a 1911, I'm just going to go ahead and go out on a limb, unless there's some crazy anomaly, it's going to be a really good 1911. Same thing for Nighthawk. One cool thing about Nighthawk, they offer a few different models. They make some very similar to like the STI 2011s with the double stack. You can get custom made, like if you see a model you like. I do believe they still offer this, at least they did last time I talked to them at SHOT Show. You can get like that model with a double stack. So if you're an actual modern professional gunfighter that wants the more capacity, Nighthawk also makes really good 1911s. And again, there are entire companies, Atlas, there are many companies, depending on what you want, that'll make the next level 1911. Just the Wilson Combat ACP. Kind of their version of a basic 1911, right? And it's beautiful and a lot of really good features on it. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it might look really good, but it's more than just the looks. The value is more than skin deep on those. And if you have the trigger control, the follow through, the proficiency to wring out the benefits of that, yeah, a next level handgun. The next one, staccato. Used to be STI, but STI or staccato, whether you have an older one or a new one, a next level gun. Yeah, there are plenty of double stack 9mm that maybe on paper you're like, why would I spend the money? I could get 3 Glocks for the price of a staccato, or 4 Glocks, or whatever for the price of an STI. Yeah, and that's what you're getting. A quarter of the gun, in my opinion. Now again, if you're just getting into handguns, and this is where I started too, right? There's nothing wrong with getting a Glock or a 320 and running a bunch of rounds to it. In fact, that's what I recommend. But anybody that would tell you that a Glock is an equal in shootability and performance to an STI probably doesn't own both. Probably hasn't ever professionally carried both or competed with both. And I've competed with both. I've professionally carried both. And I'm not going to sit here and rag on Glock, but that's not a next level handgun. I mean, when I pick up my old duty gun, this old STI, it's like it's on ball bearings. It's so smooth. The trigger is just so crisp and clean and beautiful. Again, I don't want to go through all the models, and in fact, Staccato now doesn't make nearly as many models. STI used to make many, many models. And I think any of them were next level handguns. The one that I have here is the Hawk, which was their basic model, and it still locks up like a bank vault, and it still has a trigger. I haven't like modified the trigger to make it lighter or anything like that. It didn't have to. It's got a fantastic trigger. It's got fantastic sights. It recoils to me kind of like a sewing machine. It's just back and forth, just beautiful. Beautiful symmetry, beautiful rhythm. It's just a next level handgun. In fact, I've thought about selling that one and I just haven't brought. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, who knows. But it's a fantastic handgun. It's definitely a next level handgun. Those STI staccatos, you talk about a beautiful machine for putting rounds down range. Because, right, a Glock 17 will put rounds down range. But this one will do it with speed and elegance and consistency and accuracy that is unmatched by that Glock or many other guns. It's a next level handgun. That's staccato. And this is a good place to get off on another tangent here. And you see, I've heard this from professionals, and I've heard this from people that conceal carry, and I don't really see the wisdom in it. And that is, I'm going to carry this run-of-the-mill general purpose handgun because what if I get in a shooting and it gets taken away? And especially from a good shooter, especially from somebody that's actually serious about protecting the life of themselves and those around them. You're telling me you believe there may be a better tool for the job to protect your life and the life of people around you, the 6-year-old girl, the elderly woman, and you don't want to because you are afraid that the cops might take that gun that just saved your life or other people's lives and put it in evidence. And it might get a little bit of rust on it, or they might break it, or you might never get it back. Right? Of all the things to worry about, that's really stopping you from carrying a better gun, using a better gun on duty or as a concealed carrier. If you think you're ready for that next level handgun, or you're not going to carry that really nice gun that is better for you. I'm not saying that a nicer gun is always better in every situation. Right? I love that STI, but it's a bit heavy for a CCW gun, I'm going to be honest. But you're telling me that you're not going to carry the really nice gun that shoots better for you, that's better in pretty much every circumstance, because it might get scratched, or it might get rusty, or it might get taken as evidence. If it saved your life, if that was the shot that you needed to make to save your life or other people's lives, do you want it with the thing that may get the job done, or is it's okay, or the best tool for the job? If you're jumping out of an airplane, do you want the value parachute, made out of the budget materials? That's probably going to work okay. Or right beside it is the pristine, really nice parachute. The best material is Dyneema or silk. I'm not a parachutist, right? I don't know not a skydiver. I don't know what the parachutes are made out of. But you're like, I'm not going to grab the really good parachute because I don't want to wrinkle it, right? I'm going to just leave that one in the safe or on the wall. And I'm going to take this budget parachute. It's probably good enough. I don't get it. And I'm not saying that you need to have one of these next level guns for a carry gun or for a duty gun. But if you think for you it's better, if you think you shoot it better, if you think it's a better tool for the job, I don't see the wisdom in, I'm going to carry the gun that I don't shoot as well or is not as good because I might scratch it or it might get taken as evidence. I mean, again, I don't see the wisdom in that. If we're a gunfighter, if you're a gun collector, you have it, to grow it in value. If you have it as an investment, okay, I can see that because you go carrying it, it is probably going to get scratched and a little bit rusty and things like that. I get that. If it's for an investment, if you buy guns as an investment. But if you are a gunfighter and it's a gunfighting gun, you consider yourself a gunfighter, I would have you at least be circumspect and consider what you think is the best tool for the job. Anyway, continuing on with the next level handguns. Beretta. The Beretta 92, the Beretta 92 FS. You'll know if you listen for any length of time, I really like that handgun system. I think it's a fine combat handgun. Notice I said combat handgun. I didn't say concealed carry handgun. And they're a really good handgun for what they were designed for. If you want the next level of that, talking about Wilson Combat. Wilson Combat doesn't just make 1911s. Now they make some stuff I wouldn't consider in this category, like some of the polymer guns that they don't really mess with the operating system on, but the Wilson Combat Berettas, the Beretta 92, they make some really good features. They put some really good features together on those guns. So that's what I'm talking about, like the next level. The Beretta 92 is a fine handgun. If you want the next level, I would look at a Wilson Combat Beretta. The G model decocker only, that's a good feature. The Brigadier type slide, that's a good feature. That's what I'm talking about, right on kind of that next level. But you don't have to go to Wilson Combat for that. Beretta makes their own what I would consider next level. The Performance. The Beretta 92X Performance, I would absolutely consider that a next level handgun. They make ones now, versions that'll take an optic. You can carry them, I believe, hammer back, safety on, in a single action configuration, which I prefer. Not saying that you have to prefer that, but you could also run them hammer down. But talk about a next level handgun. I think that is a fine choice. Those Beretta 92X Performance Center, just beautiful. They make a carry version. Again, I'm a big fan of hammerback safety on, single action only. There's nothing wrong with double single action, especially for a combat handgun, but for concealed carry especially, where it's a little bit different than right when I carried a Beretta in combat, where that first round, getting it quickly, going from everything's okay, everything's fine, to oh no, there's a mass shooter, or oh no, somebody's trying to kill me right now. Right? That's a common scenario for concealed carriers, where I want that first round to be fast and accurate. I like single action. And thankfully, Beretta is making several models now that you can carry that way. And again, that performance model, what a beautiful, beautiful setup that is. just fantastic. A next level handgun, I think, for sure. Just smooth, elegant. If you're familiar with the recoil of a Beretta, just really nice. And again, that Beretta 92 FS M9, it's a fine combat handgun. Going to that next level, I think. Next, we're going to talk about SIG. Now, SIG makes some really nice handguns, and I'm not a SIG fanboy. I'm really not. They make a lot of really good handguns nowadays on the market. They're kind of probably the top name. My two carry guns that I vacillate back and forth between my go-to carry guns are an M17, the military version of the 320, the M17, and a SIG 226 Legion, single action only. Again, going back to that hammerback, safety on. That's not because I'm a SIG fanboy, right? It's because when I was looking at, especially like my go-to, talking about what I was talking about, getting what is going to be the best handgun for me. Like, again, those STIs, they're fantastic handguns, but they're a little bit heavier than I'm willing to carry all the time. I'm going to be honest with you, day to day. They're fine for carry on like a duty rig, on a duty belt or a war belt, but on just a regular belt, concealed carry. So I looked at the weight that I was willing to carry. And I really, really liked that Beretta Performance Center, but again, that's on a steel frame. Now they make a different model, but at the time they made it on a steel frame, it was a bit heavy. That SIG 226, single action only, really cool, and aluminum frame. And talking about that, the Legion series. Now, some of the Legion stuff, I'm going to be honest, a lot of the stuff that they do on the Legion, to me, is not that important. It's a lot of, ooh, it's cool because it's a Legion. They give you like a coin, which I don't even know what happened to the coin. I don't know. That's not the stuff I care about, like the fact that it's got a Legion emblem on it. That's not what I care about. In fact, I took those grips off when I got it, and I broke a couple of different grips, and I went back to the Legion ones because I just had them. And I painted them, but the Legion series oftentimes does have real performance enhancements, and that's what I'm talking about. Or like the SIG X series, the X5s, the X6s, whether it be the older ones or the newer ones, whether it be the 226, 229 kind of platform base for the X5, X6, definitely a next level handgun. If you talk about the X5, and here's where I'm going to get into, not everything has to be steel on steel. I think that really lends itself to a next level handgun, but the SIG X5 320, if you really like the striker fire system, if it's what you know, if that's what you're comfortable with, that SIG X5 in the 320, that's a plastic polymer striker fired handgun that they've modified. They've put like the tungsten, which is a super heavy metal mixed with polymer, to give you kind of a quasi-hybrid of a polymer grip that's also very heavy for shooting fast, absorbing some of that recoil, stuff like that. Like, that's next level, right? That's next level over my M17. Anyway, that SIG X5 Legion, absolutely, I think, a next level handgun. So they don't all have to be steel on steel 1911s. Or even steel on aluminum, right? Absolutely a next level handgun. And they don't all have to be semi-autos. Talking about revolvers, there are some next level revolvers. You look at a Korth. A Korth revolver is not only a step up in performance, also like a work of art. Just like a Swiss watch. Just beautiful, elegant. Those, I believe, are being imported by Nighthawk. They are fantastic. The Korth revolver. You look at like even a really good standard revolver like a Colt Python, right? Kind of the epitome of a revolver. And then you look at a Korth. The Korth is next level. That's what I'm talking about. If you want to talk next level also, you might look at a Manhurin. You might not be familiar with them. When you think guns, when you think handguns, when you think fighting handguns, you probably don't think of France. Let's be real. But to give credit where credit is due, the Manhurin, at least that's how I think you pronounce it, by all accounts, and I've never actually even seen one or held one. That's how next level those are. But a fine, fine revolver. Made not just to look good, but to run really hot ammo, a lot of rounds of really hot ammo to be really good and reliable and super accurate. If you were looking for that one, like medium frame, do-it-all kind of handgun revolver, right? And you had the coinage, you had the, gold Cougarans to drop on it, a Manhurin or a Korth revolver. Just talk about next level. They're just beautiful next level guns. And not just beautiful on the outside, but beautiful inside and out. Yeah, they have fine fit and finish, but they also, good triggers, good sights, timed, smooth, right? That's what we're talking about on next level. Also kind of one that I forgot about. And I can't believe I forgot about it, but thanks to the patrons for pointing it out. And they said Smith & Wesson Performance Center. And absolutely, right? There's nothing wrong with a Smith & Wesson M&P. I love Smith & Wesson M&Ps. They make the Smith & Wesson M&P Performance Centers. I would call that a next level. They make the M&P Performance Center. They make the EZs, the Shields, all Performance Center. And they're an enhancement. They all have all kinds of enhancements, from better sights to good triggers, lightening in certain parts to help out recoil impulse, all those kinds of things. And their revolvers. They have revolvers, Performance Center revolvers, that I think are absolutely a step up. Right, so let's say you've been carrying a Smith & Wesson Shield. Fantastic carry gun. Kind of a game changer when it came on the market. You've been carrying it for a while and you think you want that next level. You want to go the Shield Performance Center. I'd say, yeah, it's a good. I think it's next level compared to the Shield for sure. They also make a 1911, and they make a fine 1911, and they make a Performance Center 1911. I think they're kind of forgotten about in the 1911 world, but a Smith & Wesson Performance Center 1911, yeah, I'd call that next level. And if you want a next level 1911 and you don't quite have the Cougarans for a Wilson Combat, yeah, you might look at that. That they make the Performance Center 1911s, absolutely, I would consider next level. Also, I'm a big fan of the Smith & Wesson J-frames. You'll know if you listen for any length of time. And I don't have their Performance Center ones, but if that was your go-to carry gun, I would absolutely look at them. And it's not just looks. They do some stuff like nicer grips and stuff, which is not just an aesthetic thing, but can also help you shoot. But like a Performance Center trigger on a Smith & Wesson revolver is a beautiful thing. And if you're a good shot with a double action, if you're a good shot with a J-frame single or double action, and you kind of want a little bit of an upgrade, unless you're a really competent gunsmith, right? It's not like working on a Glock 17. That's one of the good things about Glocks. They're so easy to work on. But working on and smoothing out a revolver trigger, a double action revolver trigger, is a different animal. It's a different kind of beast. I would have that done by Smith & Wesson Performance Center. Even me, and I've been employed as a professional gunsmith as part of my duties in the past. And even me, I'd prefer to send it to them. But yeah, absolutely, I can't believe I forgot about that. And a thank you to the patrons. Thank you to Pat. I don't think that's giving too much away. There's a lot of Pats in the world, but a thank you. He also mentioned the Kimber K6S. Now, a lot of the stuff Kimber does, again, I'm a big fan of Kimber as a whole. Some of their semi-autos, I think, are more just flash than function, which I'm not a big fan of. But that Kimber K6S revolver, it's been a while since I've handled one. In his opinion, they're a next level, what he would consider pocket revolver. And the Kimber K6S, I don't think that is just a fancier version of revolver. I think it's a really well-made steel-on-steel revolver. So yeah, thanks to him for mentioning that as well. Anyway, some thoughts on next level handguns. If there's one that you think that I forgot, you can anyway, you should like, subscribe, leave a review. If you can leave a review on the thing you're listening to, you can write it in a review. That way everybody can see it. Also, if you're listening on Spotify, there's a thing you can reply. And it asks what the next level handgun is, but I don't think there is a comment Nazi on there. If you want to say a next level handgun you think that I forgot or that you want, put it in there. Put it in there as a comment. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to support, please consider becoming a patron. Forget about the cost of, how about the cost of a box of ammo? Hopefully you'll consider becoming a patron to support this message, this ministry. Also Alpha Male Podcast, a men's ministry, and the straight up preaching on Simple Man sermons. Also, to be honest, if you want to help support me, and it's a great blessing. This is what I'm doing right now for a job. It allows me to get you guys so much content so frequently. Not to mention all the perks you get by becoming a patron. So to be real with you guys, if you want to help me out, I'd appreciate it. For it is written, you shall not muzzle the ox while it treads out the grain. You can give at the Patreon link in the show notes. If you just want to give once, there's also a Venmo link in there. If you want to contact me, you can contact me at goodshepherdtraining.com. Also, if you don't even want to give that much, you can check out what's on goodshepherdtraining.com. If you want something in return, there's some cool stuff in there. It's something as small as a sticker, a Gunfighter Life sticker, and a few other things on there. Again, goodshepherdtraining.com, or check out the Patreon link in the show notes. Enough about that. Tactical tips. The tactical tip of the day was recently trying to help out one of the patrons. That's one of the things we do on the Patreon chat, ironing, sharpening iron. It's not just me helping them, but yesterday I was trying to help as I have some experience with 1911s and 9mm, and they had converted one from 45, and I was telling them about recoil spring weight, 10 pounds, 9 pounds to 10 pounds, 8 to 10, maybe 12 if you're going super hot on ammo or you have a light slide. But that's what I was recommending for them. And talking about that upgrade, there are different upgrades you can do to the recoil springs of a 1911. One of the easier ones is to get a flat recoil spring. It's going to require a different guide rod, but if you want to go that route, absolutely can be an improvement, especially if you're a high round count shooter. If you're not a big deal. Again, you're supposed to change those recoil springs, I believe, every 1,000 rounds, and the flat recoil springs will go longer. Think of a flat recoil spring kind of like what you would see on a Smith & Wesson M&P, but generally considered a better option if you want to change out the guide rod and the recoil spring. Anyway, that's a little tactical tip of the day if you want to improve that 1911 on your own. That's not something that requires a lot of fit and finish, changing out a guide rod and a recoil spring. Also, you can look at that dual capture system, the Colt M45A1 uses. You can get those as well. Again, I believe different guide rod, but it's two springs, one nested inside the other. And that's a pretty cool system if you want to improve your 1911 that way. That's your tactical tip of the day. Your tactical verse of the day. God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, and he will exalt you in due time, casting all your cares upon him, because he cares for you. With that, thanks for listening, men. Have a blessed day.